I'm Simon Zabell, and this is my exhibition Rema, which I've brought here to The Hague. This is the first painting of my exhibition Rema, which I did for the CAC, the Centre of Contemporary Art in Malaga. They offered me a space and they told me to create a project for their space. I was reading Pasolini at the time. I was very interested in filmmaking, and I've been wanting to do a project about filmmaking for quite some time now. So I thought this was the time to work on films. And Pasolini has this text about film, the language of film. Can filmmaking be a language? Can it be some kind of Esperanto, an international language we can all understand? And if there is such a language, what is it made up of? How is it composed? He breaks filmmaking down into its individual parts, and he uses the word rema, which is a Greek word, which means something like a continuity. He uses it to define the basic unit of filmmaking as a language. So I created a whole series of paintings, Rema, which have to be shown together. And this would be the first painting of the whole series. I created a language, a very limited language of painting, where I could only use two tones of grey. There's a light grey and a dark grey. And then also the raw canvas to represent skin. And so this first painting would represent the screen of a film. That's why we have these black stripes at the top and the bottom, which we have in filmmaking to create the right proportion of the screen. This would be one of the credits of the opening, like directed by so-and-so. And here the red would be the chairs in the film theatre, in the cinema, and the heads would be the people in front of us. So with this very reduced language, which is inspired by the Bauhaus, especially by Oskar Schlemmer, who was a theatre teacher at the Bauhaus, when they were reducing the human figure to geometrical forms, I decided to work within this very limited language and try and create a whole experience of making films. So this would be the opening painting to the exhibition I've brought to The Hague. This is the largest painting in the whole exhibition. This is 220 by 360 centimeters. This is in fact the largest painting I've ever painted, and represents a classic way of in filmmaking of showing people in a car. And here we're actually in the narrative of a film. So these paintings are based on stereotypical images that we find in all kinds of films. There's two ways to do a shot of people in a car, usually in filmmaking. One is from the front of the windscreen, like the cameras on the bonnet above the engine of the car, so we can see the people inside. That's perfect for a conversation. Or sometimes we can have a side view of the people inside the car. So here we have the windscreen, the rear view mirror, and there's two characters. And these boxes here represent the text. The raw canvas that we can see here is the third element in the code, the visual code or the painting code I wanted to use for this whole project of Rema. And I reserved the raw canvas only to represent people's flesh. So these are faces, these are hands, and this is what represents the flesh of the people in the film. This painting would represent the other way of people in a car in filmmaking. We've seen the one with the windscreen and the two people seen from the front when they're conversing. And the other way of filming somebody in a car, usually in films, is to have a side view where you film somebody from the side and then you film from the other side to have the conversation where the frame is changing. So here we have the head of the person who's driving the car. This would be the steering wheel, the shoulders, the back of the seat, and obviously the head. And then this shape here would be the side window, or the door window, and this remaining shape here would be the windscreen. So this one, together with a very large painting, would represent the two ways of, in films, of representing people in cars. Once I created the code for these paintings, I really wanted to create one which was somewhat more difficult to understand. It's like sometimes when you're learning a language and you understand the basic vocabulary, but you want to advance and have a large vocabulary and be able to express and understand more sophisticated things. So here I created an image which is deliberately one which would say was only for advanced practitioners of the language, where the actual image represents a couple kissing. We imagine it's the same couple who are in the car. Because I only have this code of 2 tones of grey and the raw canvas to work with, say the dark of the sky and the dark of the hair have to be the same colour grey, so there's no distinction between the heads and the sky. So we end up with this shape, which represents one face here and the back or the side of another face here, and this would be the head and the moon in the sky, and this would be the shirt, the jacket, and the back of the jacket of the person who's facing the other way. What I enjoyed about this painting was also the idea that the shapes of the heads and the shape of the moon are the same, and this is an idea which I repeated in some of these paintings. It's a very difficult one to understand, and in the opening of the exhibition in Malaga, a few people approached me and they said, I've put some time into this, I can understand the paintings, I've decoded them all except for this one. So that was in a way my objective, to have one which would really need some work to be put in to decipher what's in the image. The narrative of the film in painting format's moving on, and now it appears that there were 2 people in the previous paintings, now there's only one. It appears that each one has gone one way. And we see the melancholic image of just one person sitting on a park bench with some subtitles underneath. So there is some text, there is some audio which is being referred to by the subtitles, perhaps a voice which is not, which represents the thoughts of the person who's sitting on the bench. And also I like the idea of the head of the person on the bench and the trees being represented with the identical shape. This is something which I like, because it also happens in language, where the same word can have different meanings depending on the context. And here I forced the image to go further up, so we have no black strip at the top, we have a black strip at the bottom which is larger, so that we can see the heads of the people. These grey circles represent the heads of the people in front of us. This idea represents what happens sometimes when we're in a movie and we lose our concentration on the film for seconds and we look around us, and once again we're aware of the fact that we're in a movie theatre before we get back into the film again. And then the second painting here, we just see this one person. There's 2 heads, but there's actually only one person who's looking at himself in the mirror. The mirror here is depicted just by this angle, and then the amount of hair and the shape of the circle of the head is telling us that it's one same person and his or her reflection.